Jennifer Soucy is back on the show. She was on here last time talking about her book, Demon in Me, and she's back on again this time talking about her newest book, The Mother We Share, which I got a chance to read before everybody else did. Haha, it comes out tomorrow. And it's fantastic. So we'll get into that. But first, let me tell you about my friends. Irie Kitchen is the best place in Grand Rapids, but you know what, maybe even the world, for organic Caribbean street food. The owner, Vince, has been rocking out since he was 19 years old with this restaurant, and the food is amazing. The energy inside the building is great. I'm going to tell you right now, you get that chicken sandwich on that homemade cocoa bread, that bread does not get soggy in the fridge. So if you order a big sandwich, don't worry about it getting gross overnight. It's going to come out the next day being just as delicious cold as it was the day before. You got to check these guys out. Irie Kitchen. Taste the rhythm. The show is also brought to you by Rivertown Adventures in Lansing, Michigan, the most fun you're going to have outdoors and possibly indoors in Lansing, Michigan, or anywhere else for that matter. It's outdoors, it's socially distanced. This is what you got to be doing if you're going to have fun with your friends. You don't have to worry, oh, is it safe to eat at the place yet? Should we even all get in a car? Go downtown, meet up there, get in some boats, have a great time. Don't worry about it. You can get canoes, kayaks, paddle boards. You can get 2 people in a kayak. I didn't even know that was a thing, but they have tandem kayaks. So please go and check out Rivertown Adventures in downtown Lansing. Check them out at rivertownadventures.com. Live free, go paddle with Rivertown Adventures. The next thing you got to do is get on Facebook, because that's the only place you're going to find them, all right? Facebook, and look up Baby Farm Soaps. They've got all the soaps that you need. They've got all the lip care products that you need, skin care products, beard care products, you name it. They've got it. Baby Farm Soaps. Check them out. Let them know that you heard about them on Creative Ops, and tell them you want one of everything. Baby Farm Soaps. I always give a big shout out to Hey Guys Media Group, because they're the guys that got me started in podcasting, and I also write for them online, so that's another thing that I do. But check those guys out, heyguysmediagroup.com, because what they do is they help people make podcasts. They can teach you everything that you need to know, help you get started early on so that you make sure that you get all the right cover art, everything gets uploaded to where it's supposed to get uploaded to, and then from there it's a smooth path. Trust me, these guys know what they're doing, and they want to help you know what you're doing so that you can make your podcast the way that you want to. So please check them out, heyguysmediagroup.com, and see how they can help you make your podcast. And then the last one today is Ziegler of Grandville. Harold Ziegler of Grandville sells Dodge new and used cars, as well as some other cars too. But I myself drive a Dodge that I bought from there, and their service department is fantastic. And I talked to them a little bit, and they were like, hey, yeah, we want to get in on this show for one episode and see how that goes. So please go check out Grandville, Michigan, Harold Ziegler, Zeigler. Check them out, see what they can do for you with all of your car and car repair needs. All right. That said, let's get into this. As I had already mentioned, Jennifer Soucy is a fantastic writer of horror. She's got a new book out for young adult audiences. Not like young adult, but like, high school at least. And she writes horror. Some of her stuff is creepier than others, but it's all kind of grounded in this very realistic world that slowly sucks you into a WTF land. And it's great. It's great. I can't say enough about it. It's very poetically written, which seems to contrast how dark the book is, but the two work in a very strange marriage, and Jennifer Soucy's style is unique and highly enjoyable. Also, I'm going to be giving away some of her books through the podcast too, so if you go to my Instagram, Christopher_Tallon, find a post that has Jennifer Soucy's books on it, take a screenshot of her books, take a screenshot of the podcast logo, upload those on your own post, and there's a very good chance that you might win a book or 2 or 3 from Jennifer Soucy. So please go check that out. I've also got the details at www.christophertallon.com, which you should check out anyway, because that's my website and I'm fucking awesome. So go ahead, check out my friend Jennifer Soucy at www.jenniferlsoucy, SOUCY, jenniferlsoucy.com. Check out everything she's got going on. Visit her on her social medias, follow her, like her, interact with her, and most of all, buy her books, or hey, try to get in the running for some free ones. But that's enough of that. Let's get into the interview with Jen Soucy, born in the New England area, now living in Georgia, and she's written about both places in very fun, fascinating ways. I hope you get a chance to check it out. And if you don't believe me now, listen to the interview, and I know you'll want to go and check out what she's got. So without further ado, here is my interview, the second time, with Jennifer Soucy. It's been a weird weekend between my car deciding it's not going to work and then my computer starting up and being like, you need updates and restarting today. How have you been?
I hear you on the weirdness. March has been such a shit month. Like it's been one
Yes.
disaster after another. So I'm really hoping April's going to be better.
Yeah. Well, your book, this podcast, I'm hoping to get it out today, if not by tomorrow. So either way, by then, most people will be listening to this April 6th or after. So your newest book will be out. Um, let's talk about that just a little bit. I don't want to give spoilers or anything, and we'll get into it a little bit, but we won't
Mhm.
talk about anything past, like, say, the first half of the book, just to
That's good. That's
just
what
to
I
not.
do my blurbs on usually.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't want to give away too much too fast. Um, but yeah, so let's talk about this book. This is a you told me that this is a YA book, right?
It's like YA/NA because it's going to be a series, and the following books are going to get progressively more adult, obviously, as the character gets older.
Yeah. Well, because there were parts of it where I was like, okay, this seems like, as far as the romance goes, I was like, okay, this
Hmm.
seems like normal YA. Like, they like each other, they kiss, they're kind of like hee hee about it. But then it does get a little bit heavier, and that's when I
Yes.
was like, okay, you know what? I guess this could be YA, but it's probably not going to be like a sixth grade read.
No, this is definitely like 17, 18 plus. This is not
Yeah,
for kids. Well, and plus, I mean, the bulk of YA, like these types of novels, they really are intended for older teenagers, especially when you're writing like horror. I'm sure there's like some spooky middle grade books or whatever, but when you're going like when you're writing about monsters and stuff, you really don't want to aim for like the preteen audience because who knows? I mean, I don't know what affects people in what way because I grew up on horror and I
yeah,
guess I'm okay, but you never you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, it's definitely for older groups.
yeah, yeah. I grew up on horror too. My dad was in the army and drafted into Vietnam. And so I think his idea of like what's appropriate is just a little bit off. So when I was really young, he was like, "Hey, come and watch this movie with me." A guy that I went to the same high school as me wrote it, and it was The Exorcist. So I was like in
Yeah.
first or second grade, and he's like, "Can you believe a guy I went to high school wrote this?" And I'm just sitting there pissing my pants, like, "Why are you showing me this?"
Oh, I totally get you because when my mother, both my parents were Catholics, but my mom was like a super Catholic, you know.
Yeah,
So when The Exorcist came on TV, I was like 9 years old when it made its first television appearance, and she's watching it. And she's like, "Oh, you should sit down and watch this. It's about a possession." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, that sounds fun." So I'm watching it, and I'm like getting slowly creeped out. And then
yeah,
Reagan starts flipping on the bed. I fled the room. I was like, "Why did you do this to me?"
yeah. No, me too, because I grew up Catholic, and actually the church that I went to is kind of famous now because the priest had embezzled like a couple $1 million from our church over the course of a couple decades, and then
Oh my
I
god.
think he died of like a guilt induced heart attack while he was on trial for it. So
That's crazy.
yeah, but so yeah, so all things Catholicism kind of thrown in there. I don't know, but uh yeah, we were Catholic too, and both my parents grew up going to like Catholic schools, um,
Mhm.
which may have had an effect on the guy who wrote The Exorcist. I don't know, but yeah, so everything in that movie was super Catholic, so it wasn't just like this is
Mhm.
something that can happen to anybody who believes, but like it felt very Catholic, and I was like, is this gonna happen to me if I like steal a candy bar? Like, ah! So I spent most of my young life being terrified of being possessed for like no reason whatsoever.
Oh, no, me too, and, a couple years after, like most teenagers, my friend had a Ouija board, and so
Yeah,
we were playing with it, and you swear something happens. I don't know if anything really happened, but like the first thought in my head was, oh my God, am I going to be flipping on the bed and
Dude,
getting
I
possessed
for
and peeing on the carpet?
I forgot about that because they said in the movie like, oh, she had been playing with a Ouija board or something like that, right? They tried to pin it on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
She met Captain
Oh.
Howdy.
Oh man. I obviously haven't watched that movie since I was like 10 because I forgot a lot of that stuff at the beginning part of it. I just remembered the really gruesome stuff. Oh man, did you see the they had a like a 30-year anniversary special where they updated it and made it look a lot better and they were able to put in scenes like the spider walk down the stairs. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, we actually, me and my boyfriend, we took my mother to the theater to go see that. And honestly, I mean, like it was cool the first time or whatever, because the spider walk was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I really prefer the original version because that's the one that scared me the most. But honestly, if you've not read the book, you definitely need to read the book. And one of
Yeah.
the things I thought was so funny, which it didn't really strike me as funny until starting to write and all that. But the author, he wrote the screenplay for the movie as well. And it was his
Huh.
first time writing a screenplay, so he didn't really know what to do. So he just did a really good adaptation of the novel. Like it's very, very good. There's almost every scene is in it. And when someone asked him, like, how did you write such, a true to the book screenplay? How did they let you get away with that? He's like, well, I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to change it.
That's really funny too, because like I've heard people say that um, one guy that I interviewed who normally did surf photography got roped
Hmm.
into like making some videos for Surfer magazine, and he was like, "So I just Googled like what a screenplay looks like and kind of went from there." But yeah, if there's no simple point of reference, then yeah, I guess you just make it up as you go. That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah. I thought it was so cool because when you're a book fan and you see like an adapted movie of the book, a lot of times it's either just bad or it's somehow unsatisfying or not quite perfect because they change little things here and there. I
Hmm.
just thought it was so refreshing that he was like, well, why would I change anything? They asked me to adapt my book, so I did.
All right, let's talk about some writing stuff then. Last time we talked, if I remember right, you said that you're not the kind of person who writes with an end in mind already. Is that right? You follow your gut until you get to a point where you're like, well, obviously this has to happen, or no?
Well, I have like a vague idea of how it's going to end, but it's not always set in stone because sometimes as you're writing, like I'll keep in mind certain plot points that I want to see happen, but sometimes things change. And if it works, then I go with it. And if not, then I try to urge the characters back in a different direction because, sometimes they have minds of their own.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I've heard people say even like, oh God, who was it? Elmore Leonard. Um,
Mhm.
he said that he was writing one story, one of his more famous ones, and there was a character that just it didn't have any life to it. And he said he just changed the name from like Bob to Steve, and all of a sudden this character wouldn't shut up and had a backstory. So it's yeah, just a little tweak can can make a big difference, whether
Yeah,
it's just in the writer's mind or if it actually has like a logical aspect to it.
right. And I think too, I mean, obviously some of that makes it into the story, but I think more importantly, if you kind of build up your characters in your mind, you don't even have to write everything that happens to them. You don't have to write their whole backstory, every motivation and dream or nightmare that they have. As long as you know it, a lot of times that'll still come through, if you're
Yeah.
doing your job right. So it's just important that you know it. You don't have to give every detail, but which can be kind of hard because sometimes you really want to. But then that's how tangents happen and the pacing slows down. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. You know, I don't really have a good question for this. So maybe I'll just say give like a mini lecture about pacing because you do a great job of like the hook for this most recent book, The Mother We Share. Sorry, I didn't mention the name sooner. Uh, it, it it catches you with kind of a misdirect, um, which pulls you in by itself, but then each chapter just seems to get more steam without ever having started off from a super slow place. So, what's your what's kind of your personal thoughts on pacing and how to do it right?
Well, I'm not sure that at first I was doing it right, but it's one of those things definitely with practice that you will get better at. And with reading, again, a writer should be reading quite a
Mm,
bit because you can learn from other people's successes, things that you should be focusing on and including in your work. But The Mother We Share was the first book I wrote in 2018. So I had no real idea what I was doing. And so I wrote it and, I did some editing, I did some rewrites here and there, and I started putting it up for the pitch contest. And I remember
yeah,
the feedback I was getting was so crazy. Like, I had one agent who said, and this was within a week, I got these two rejections. I had one agent who was like, the beginning is too slow. You've got to have something happen in the first chapter. And then within a week, I got another rejection from another agent, and they were like, yeah, this is way too fast paced. Like, this is just not going to work for me. And I'm like, well, damn it, what do I do? So I kind of did like a blend of that. And, feedback, we learn from feedback. So, even if I didn't necessarily know who to agree with, I took both opposing options and kind of tried to make a middle ground that satisfied me and I hope will satisfy readers, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, I just every chapter should have a purpose. Every section of a chapter should have a purpose. And if you're rereading yourself, before you even show it to anyone, if you're rereading it and you're skimming over parts, or maybe you're a little bit bored, or you find your mind wandering, that's kind of a clue that you need to do something different here. Because if you're getting distracted, the reader's probably going to be like dead bored this part. So try to jazz it up a little.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about this earlier. I think one of the better compliments that a writer could give another writer is to say, I have a hard time reading your stuff in big chunks because it makes me want to go write. And not a
Yeah.
lot of writers. Sometimes I just go, I want to read a different story, or I need to go and do a chore right now. But I read your stuff, and I can't read more than like 30 pages before my mind starts going in a different direction, and I just start going, oh, you know what? I want to write a story that kind of has like that thing from that one scene. I could do that, and it sends me into a whirlwind. But yeah, that's a different kind of distraction, I guess. That's a good one to have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Um, okay. I want to talk about the pinch competitions because all I got was a headache from the first one that I tried to do. But I really want to first talk about The Mother We Share. You said that's the first novel that you wrote?
Yes. And I mean, the publishing world, things can get, delayed, messed up. And of course, 2020 is still an ongoing nightmare, with COVID and, and my publisher, they're so great, Red Askew, but, they were one of many, hit with massive delays from COVID stuff. A lot of publishers were, and because Amazon was delaying books and all this, and of course, if people are getting sick, which we had people on the staff that had gotten sick, so they
Mm,
needed time to recover. But then one of our editors is also on the West Coast. So once we started getting back from the COVID stuff and the wildfires happened, and it was just one thing after another, and so things got delayed, which is totally understandable. So, but now it's finally out, and it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe my first book is out, and it's like the fourth book I've published.
well, that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was first wondering was, did this book just kind of like get planned to be published, and for whatever reason it kind of kept bouncing around, or because I've heard a lot of people say that the first book you write isn't the first one that gets published usually. Did you
Hmm.
come back to this and say, I think this one is good enough, I'm going to try to push this one back out, or was it just a series of delays?
it was just a series of delays, unavoidable things that, again, a lot of publishers went through last
Yeah.
year. Um, but yeah, I had sold it. I had sold it right after I sold Demon in Me, which was technically the first book I had sold.
Okay.
So it was due to be published after that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, 2020 happened and that just set everything back, which was why I ended up self-publishing The Night She Fell too. Like, cause I had already written it and worked on it and I'd had all this time. So I was like, might as well while I'm waiting on
Well, yeah,
everything else.
because Demon and Me, when we talked about that, that had a weird journey where a publisher had bought it and then
Hmm. Gone out of business.
went under before they could actually put it out, right?
Yep.
So, man, I'm trying to make a question out of that, and I just keep spinning around to like my experience this weekend, where your entire publishing experience is like kind of been like a crazy weekend, but it's a series of 3.5 years now.
Oh yeah. I mean, but it's been great. There's been so many lessons I've learned and as a newer writer,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's a struggle to adjust at first when something happens, any obstacle arises, but as long as you learn from it and everything works out in the end, then I mean, it could be worse. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
There's people with a lot worse stories of, publishing and issues like that. And
Oh,
I'm lucky I've
Chuck,
never had to go through anything that bad.
did we talk about this? I feel like we might have. Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote The Fight Club. I
Hmm.
always feel like I'm saying his name wrong, but
Me
anyway,
too.
Chuck. I think it's Palahniuk, but I had heard that somebody who's in charge of like finances through his publisher had ripped him off of almost all of his money, like to the point where he's like, I have almost nothing in the bank. And then his outlook on it though was like, but I can still write, so I can still make money. So that was
Right. I mean,
a cheery disposition, I guess. But
well, I think too, because I think he's had a lot of challenges in his past. Because I read
yeah,
one of his books, one of his nonfiction books recently, and they're just different type of people. Some people they have, I don't know if it's a better outlook, a more positive outlook, which not that any one way is right or wrong. I mean, people have to deal with bad stuff all the time, but if you can try to find some way to not let it drag you down past a certain point. I mean, setbacks are gonna, they're gonna affect you. And
yeah,
we're all, human, but you can't let it destroy you. You've got to just keep pushing and try your best to learn something, move on and move forward.
yeah. That's good advice for anybody in any stage of whatever they're doing. Because, well, we've talked since the last time you were on the show. I'm still trying to get a book published, but um, yeah. So I'm trying to stay steady in not getting too deterred by the no's. This isn't right for me. Thanks for asking, or just the the no responses. But
Oh, those are
yeah,
the worst. Those are the worst. I will take a form letter any day
yeah,
over crickets.
yeah.
You know?
If you haven't heard anything after 8 weeks, it's a no. Okay, great, thanks.
Or there's some who are like, okay, we want you to only just submit to us, but if you haven't heard from us in, 10 months, like,
Yeah, yeah. We want
I'm sorry,
exclusive rights, but yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. But no, you just got to keep pushing. I mean, I kept track of every single rejection that I got, among 3 books. And it was easily like 40, 50 rejections per book
oh,
until
per
I
book.
got,
Wow.
yeah, per book until I got either my acceptances or just put it out myself. Like I was lucky, Demon in Me had only gotten maybe a dozen rejections. And then, it had sold. But then once that was all set, I was like, I'll just self publish. I can't go through all that again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's ready
Especially,
to go. I can't.
I had thought originally that if I was going to be an author, that having a podcast would be like a good way to reach a new audience or stay in touch with an audience. But since I've started doing it, I love doing it. I've noticed that I've been doing way less time on the like trying to get published stuff, just because, trying to keep a podcast going has been doing that. But man, I think, yeah, by this summer, if it's not got traction with somebody, I'll just put it out on Amazon, see how that goes, and then bug people on my podcast to buy
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, it's a great story. So don't let the rejections of, you know, agents especially, because a lot of times, some of them will say, yeah, we accept new talent. But when it comes right down to it, in my experience anyway, I mean, the agents, they're business people and they want something that they feel is a sure thing,
Yeah, yeah,
and so if you're brilliant, like, the best writer ever, undiscovered gem, then yeah, they might sign you up and hope for the best. But a lot of people just, it's like hitting the lottery, it
yeah.
just doesn't happen right away. So, but that doesn't mean that anything's wrong with your story or your technique or anything like that. It's just very competitive. And
Oh yeah.
when you
No, I
submit
I
to
know that
stuff,
I'm the second best writer behind you and maybe Brandon Scott.
yeah. But yeah, it's just super competitive. It's crazy. And like I really had a lot more luck, I think, especially because of my genre. Horror is not usually a massive draw because it doesn't bring in the dollars that other genres do.
And they're
I
probably
was
looking
really
for more
lucky.
diverse voices in horror too, because I mean, you think about all the great horror writers, and there's definitely
Hmm.
some women in there, but it's a lot of white guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why Women in Horror Month every February is so awesome. Like I didn't even know that that was a thing until I started writing and I was on Twitter, and you see all the hashtags and stuff. I just know that when I was growing up, it was something that I was like, God, there's not a lot of women writers out there. But of course there are. There are a lot of women writers. They just don't, especially in the past, they did not get the same amount of support that their male
Yeah,
counterparts did. So it's
yeah,
nice to see that changing, and especially in horror. I think above all other genres, they're really pushing to lead the way in diversity, in women, in people of color, in everything.
yeah. Did I wanted to ask you, um, and geez, I can't remember how much of this is a repeat from last time, so I apologize if I'm redundant. Have you read Toni Morrison's Beloved?
Yeah, I love that book. It's amazing. And I would classify it totally as a horror story.
Okay, did we talk about this last time?
I don't think so. I don't
Because that was my
remember.
next question: is do you call that a horror story or historical fiction?
No, I call it a horror story. I mean, yeah, I could see where you would also call it historical fiction. I would call it a horror story and Southern Gothic as well.
Yeah, because that was we
Hmm.
had to read for my senior year in college. We did our our author study was Toni Morrison. It's it changes every semester, but that's what it was that semester.
Hmm.
And that woman was an intense writer, but that book more than any, like it just seemed so well. Maybe not solely that one. There was the one with the women that lived in the old convent too. What was that one called? That one was kind of weird. But yeah, that one it was horrifying, but it drew more from real life to be horrifying than anything else. I always thought that the daughter coming back to life was just kind of like emphasis on the real horror. Um,
Oh, for sure. But that's one of the things though that sometimes works very well in horror is, yeah, you can do the supernatural stories and ghosts and all this, but when you include real life horrors, I mean, that's always way more terrifying than any imaginary monster, because it
yeah,
actually happened. What's more scary and terrifying than to think of something like slavery actually existing,
yeah,
and having a foothold in this country for so long. It's horrible. It's terrifying.
yeah, yeah. The part in that book where the I can't remember the male main character who was the slave's name, but he was saying that the chicken was more of a person than he was, and I was just like, man, that
Yeah.
can you imagine living like that? God. But
No, yeah.
and well, let's talk about the North and South transition here too, just culture wise, because
Hmm.
you're from the birthplace of America, and now you live
Yeah.
in not the birthplace of the Confederacy, but like definitely, the opposite side of the opposite side of things
Yes.
historically. What was it like going from, because in the book, Evie and her friend, no, it wasn't her friend, it was her boyfriend, couldn't remember all the different historical places, and she's like, "We live here. How do you not know this?" Did you grow up right
Yeah.
around all that kind of stuff too?
Yes, and I had tons of field trips, like based on the American Revolution. Most of the schools I went to were named after heroes. Like, I went to Nathan Hale Elementary School for a while, and everything is like Paul Revere, George Washington. All the founding fathers, Sam Adams. Even though I didn't grow up in Massachusetts, he's still everywhere in New England, and
Yeah,
yeah, it was just a thing. And it was kind of cool, but I think we focused more on that growing up. Like, we did not study the Civil War too much. Like, when we were in high school, there was a section of our American history year, which I think was junior year, which we did study the Civil War, but it was a very different like curriculum than what I've learned since, that people
yeah,
down here study regarding that. So, yeah, it was a huge culture shock, which is why in Clementine's Awakening, I kind of explore, well, I don't really explore the difference between like North and South too much, but I do a little bit because Clementine is a Southern girl, a Georgia girl, and but she never really has been anywhere. So all she knows about life is what she observes from tourists and from, books and studies or whatever. But I do make a little mention of, the differences between them in that story too, because it's just
yeah,
something that fascinates me, that we can all be from the same country, but there's so many differences that seem small, but some of them are big. Like, you hear in the South a lot of times people argue, well, I'm not a racist, but I think the Civil War was about states' rights. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, fair enough, but one of those states' rights that your
Was
ancestors
slavery.
were defending was slavery, and that's not a right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That should never be a right, that you get to enslave another human as property. So, I mean, there's been a lot of I met so many good people down here, but there's definitely been people I've had my differences with and had
yeah,
to have serious discussions with.
yeah. Well, I knew a guy from Alabama that I worked with when I was in the Navy, actually in Florida and then overseas too. And he was very much the same way. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm not a racist," and like his best friend was from the Dominican Republic, so
Hmm.
he obviously wasn't somebody who just purely hated people of a different color, but he was like, "No, man, no, the Civil War, it wasn't about slavery." And I was like, "Well, I just read the last transcript of the full meeting of Congress, and it was the senator from South Carolina saying, 'If you enforce no slavery, we're going to secede from the Union.'" So it wasn't just
Exactly.
about all rights, period. It was a very specific one.
Yeah. I mean, and I get, like, states want to be independent and they should be, but there's times where that's when the federal government's supposed to hop in and be like, look, everyone go into your corners, shut the hell up. Mom and dad are talking and you're going to listen to us and do what we say, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, the federal
which is
government's
the
like,
same
"We're a
thing
fan of oppression too, but subtle, more subtle."
with, right? Well, it was the same thing with like segregation and stuff. I mean, imagine if they didn't step in the 60s to stop, cities and states from segregating students and people. And I mean, that's crazy too.
Yeah. And I don't wanna make it sound like I'm, trying to demonize the South here because I lived in Florida for a while and I like the South. And one thing that I've noticed especially is if you talk about, like, if you talk about race in the North and race in the South, a lot of people in the North just assume that most people in the South are racist. But when I was like visiting in the Carolinas and in Florida and in Georgia, it seems like most of the younger people are like, "Oh yeah, that's just some old shit that like our great grandparents and grandparents couldn't give up." But most young people now, like one school tried to have two separate proms, one for black kids and one for white kids, and
Hmm.
the white kids were like, "No, we want one prom or nothing." Like it wasn't even a
Right.
question.
Well, and I think so too. Like, I think I'm from Generation X. So we already were born after the worst of all of these upheavals and riots and stuff in the 60s. So I think we grew up, a lot of people in my generation, more open minded. But I think the following generations are even more so. And I have a lot of faith that things are moving in the right direction. I know, in the media and stuff, sometimes it seems like there's lots more setbacks, but I mean, there's always going to be, bad people doing bad things. And that's from all walks of life, all parts of the country. But I mean, I have to have faith that the people I know are good people and that you see good people on TV all the time. And we've got to be moving in the right direction. We just can't give up on keeping that momentum going.
I love the sentiment and I love what you're saying, but you got to admit it does sound kind of weird coming from a horror writer who writes about monsters, right?
I know. I'm a strangely optimistic person. I think it's
Well,
because I get out all my negativity writing about monsters.
yes, yeah, and that's what other writers, including the great Stephen King, have said. Is that I don't need a therapist. I just write all my shit, and you people pay me for it.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
um, we don't have to go too much into personal stuff if you don't want to. But is
Hmm.
there anything in your life that draws you to darker forms of expression like that? I've noticed that a lot of your books have deal with childhood traumas of varying spectrums of, I don't know what you want to call, like, nastiness, or you know fairy not fairy tale, but dealing with the fairy stuff, the good people.
Hmm.
um so yeah, is there something that's just got you all messed up that you're trying to work out in your head, or
I mean, yeah, for sure. There was a lot of stuff. Not to say that I had the worst life ever, because I didn't. There's always someone worse off than, whatever you think you went through.
oh, don't
But
start with that. Everybody's trauma is trauma.
true, true. But no, I mean, like, I had good memories with my family, but I also had some really dark times that I went through individually and with them. And yeah, it absolutely left its mark. And for a while during my teenage years, I was in a very bad place. I had issues after my parents' divorce. I had other issues, being assaulted when I was a young kid, and
Mm.
it brought me to some very bad places, mentally, physically, and eventually, I did get taken away from my home. So for a few years, and then that that was another trauma that was hard to get over. So
Yeah,
I
how old
think
were you when that happened?
15 was the worst of it. And between like 15 and 18 was like probably my lowest point ever. And
Yeah. So
it
were you one
was
of those
really
kids
rough.
that, like, got in fights and didn't give a shit and all that, or what was your response to all that?
Well, I tried to get in fights, but nobody would fight me. I, like I was such a smartass, and I would pick fights all the time. But I don't know, like, I seriously doubt it was like my intimidation factor, but there was just something, no one would actually throw a punch. So that was very unproductive.
So either they were
So
scared or they were like, "Please."
yeah, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I ended up taking out most of my frustrations on myself. And yeah, it was super hard. And, I think that's why family themes and childhood trauma themes stick with me so much, because
Mm,
those years, even if you have, stay with your family for the bulk of your life, that's 18 years, which seems like forever at the time, but it's really not forever. Like, now that I'm 42, I look back and it's like, I feel like that was not even myself, that was a completely different person,
yeah,
because it's so
yeah.
distant now. And it's so frustrating, because when you see other kids going through the same thing, and you want to tell them this really is going to go by so fast.
Yeah.
And what you think is insanely crucial now is really not going to be. So just hang in there, because it's going to be over and you'll be on your own before you know it. And then you'll have real problems, you know? like like adulting sucks.
Yeah, yeah. It can get the best of you sometimes. I was gonna take my kids somewhere and drop them off while I was doing this because it's their spring break, but then, like we were talking
Mhm.
about, that fuel pump relay in my car went out, so now my car's at the dealership. I got shuttled back over here, and my daughter is watching my 2 sons trying not to lose her goddamn mind.
Poor kid.
Yeah, she's really good and she's really patient, but she has 2 younger brothers who are 5 and 7, and she's, she's right at that 12 turning 13 age, so it's a you were there once, you know.
Yes, yes.
So
I
she's
mean, I was only a year and a half older than my sisters, but I definitely still had to take the slack up of watching them at times. And they were very hyper twins, so it was not an easy task. And a lot of times I just locked myself in my room and said, go do what you're going to do because I washed my hands of it.
yeah. So far, I haven't heard any screams, but usually if they're alone up there with each other for, like, an hour, you'll hear, "Leave me alone!"
Siblings. And that's
Yeah.
another thing I read about too, like in The Mother We Share. Um, I don't know if you've gotten to
Yeah,
the
no, that's
end.
an intense sibling rivalry right there.
Yes. I don't know if you got to the end, like, but the acknowledgments. I write about how I was inspired by this story because I have younger twin sisters, and it's like a big family joke, like, who's the evil twin, who's the good twin. So that's always been something we grew up with. Spoiler alert, they both can be evil, but they both can be pretty good too. So, but yeah, my sister, the one with the kids, we all love horror. So she used to tell her daughters that she liked to tell them scary stories because they loved scary stories, just like we did. She
Yeah.
would tell them before bed that they had twins, each of them, a twin that didn't make it. and, and you would see her in the shadows in the closet under the bed. You would just see two green eyes. And so the kids, they called her the green eyed girl. She was their boogeyman.
Huh.
And now they're all
That's
they're all grown up, but and they love the story. So
that's interesting. That's where the green eyes came from, huh?
yes, well, and the fact that me and my sisters all have green eyes, but I think that's where my sister got it from because none of her kids do. So, but yeah, so it's funny how stories take seed. Like she was doing that 20 years ago, telling that story, but it took seed enough even in my brain that I wrote a book about it eventually, like my first book, which she's delighted about.
Okay. I'm I'm looking now. I want to see the acknowledgments because I didn't see those the first time. Oh yeah. You know what? I skipped right past that and went right to the about the author part where everything's blank
Oh,
because it was the ARC, so it didn't have it all in there yet. And I was like, oh, about the author, insert bio here. Join
no.
author's name on website, Facebook.
That's all changed for the final copy.
Okay, good. I was gonna say if they haven't taken care of that yet, then you might want.
No, it's all good now. Yeah, that was like the early arc, so.
Okay. Um, I want to ask you about the actual, not history, but the folklore and everything that you got into for
Mhm.
this, because it seems like you did more than just read a Wikipedia stub. There's a lot of like specific places and names, and how much of that is real? Like the guy who got in the boat wreck and guards the oh, what's it called? The
Tech Duin and Knockfarina, those are
Yes,
all real places.
yes. Okay, so
I
how did all this stuff come on your radar?
well, I've always been a huge fan of folklore, mythology, legends, and my grandmother and her entire family were Irish. So that
Mm,
was always a big part growing up, because her parents, I forget if no, her parents were born here, but their parents immigrated during the potato famine.
mm,
So, they had to change their name and couldn't find work and the whole nine yards. So I always thought those stories were, really interesting when I was growing up. And so I started looking into the history of it at a young age. I was reading like Yeats and Lady Gregory and whatever I could find. And I always loved those stories. So
Yeah, yeah, because I
again,
remember you mentioned them specifically in the book too.
yeah, yeah. And oh, and they're great. And I totally recommend them. And you can either get a lot of their books for free or super cheap,
Yeah.
on like Amazon. But yeah, I was just, I grew up again with this in the back of my head. And I hadn't read any of those stories for years, mind you, when I was sitting down to write this. And I wasn't sure where I was going to be going with this, but then it kind of hit me, inspiration strikes. And I was like, I should interweave these. So I did. And while I was doing that, I looked up, a bunch of local sites. And I should also say, I studied witchcraft and paganism a lot when I was a teenager. And I
Was
fancied
that?
myself.
I was gonna say, was that kind of a when in your angsty days, or
Yes, that was
yeah?
that was part of my grand rebellion.
I was remember some people got really into like punk rock, some people got into like paganism and Wicca and stuff like that.
I tried to be like Willow from Buffy, so that was my goal. um, and anything to shock my Catholic family. So that
Right.
was like
Yes.
perfect. I'm going to take this path. But no, it ended up, even though I didn't stick with it as like a discipline, the lore and everything always fascinated me. And I always kind of dallied to read about it and, whether through nonfiction, well, nonfiction books or fiction books, it's always been something that interested me. So that's why I, already knew some of the stuff, but I had to like do more research to get like some cool locations. And, I thought it was really funny too while I was researching that a lot of places in Ireland, I worked at an Irish pub with a lot of actual Irish people, like immigrants to this country.
Mm.
So, you ask them about fairies. I told them I was writing a book about fairies, and they were like, "Oh, Jesus! Like that's." They were like, "Come on, that no one believes that. That's nonsense. Bollocks, whatever." And so then I started reading some papers about like the hawthorn trees, and that's where the fairies, that's where the door to their home is, and whatever. And I thought it was super funny that there were several articles, not even just one, but there were several articles about road projects or building projects that got put on hold or had to be completely redone because the locals didn't want hawthorn trees disturbed
Wow.
because they thought it could disturb something else. And I'm like, so is it nonsense or do you all actually believe this? Because your actions are not they're not matching up with your words here. so so that was
Yeah.
something that interested me, and that's how it just really drew me into building this world that Evie accidentally uncovers because of her midnight visitor.
Hmm. Yeah. And it trying to figure out a way to say this without being too spoilery, but
Hmm.
yeah, when the uh the mistaken identity, both on her part and then later her dad's too, that the first time around though really threw me for a loop. I was like, why would she want to hurt her?
Right, because it shouldn't make sense. But if you do the whole evil twin thing,
Yeah.
my sisters are 40 years old. They're 40 and they love each other very much and they're twins, but they also at least once a year try to kill each other. So I don't know why there's that thing with twins. And it's not just my sisters. Like I thought it was just them. I thought they were like somehow broken or demented. But as you grow up and you make friends outside of your family, I've met a lot of twins. I've met triplets, in fact, that I worked with a set of triplets. And they said all the time, because I asked them, I'm like, do you guys fight like really bad? And they're like, oh, all the time. We're always competing with each other. We're always fighting with each other, but we still love each other. It's just, I don't know, it's a thing. So, I think part of that was really one of the roots. I mean, obviously it goes deeper than that, But yeah, I'm trying not to spoil my own book here. But I wanted it to be unclear at first, because that's
Yeah.
part of the mystery. Otherwise, what is she unraveling? What is she looking for if she already knows all the answers?
Well, you do a lot of really good misdirection, and it's not overly elaborate. It's just, kind of the old, oh, doesn't this look like this? Yes, it does. Well, it's not.
Yeah. Well, because when I'm writing, it's different. Like, when you write, sometimes you just get everything out, and that's what revising and editing. That's when you go back and tweak certain things. But yeah, when I
Hmm.
was going back and reading it, some things I'd keep or enhance, and some things I'd be like, that doesn't even make sense. Because you got to still, when you're revising, it's more important than ever that you're in not only the character's mind to try to understand their motivation, see things from their point of view, but you want to also be in an audience frame of mind. You know,
Mm.
you want there to be just enough so the audience understands what's happening, but you don't want to give too much away. And sometimes there is room where, I mean, a character's not omniscient, especially if you're writing from first person. They're not omniscient.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy to have these mistaken identity issues or whatever because you're just seeing from their eyes and you're working based off of their limited knowledge. So if you do it that way, it's easier to have the misdirection.
Yeah. Did you always start off with this story knowing that it was going to be told from the main character's point of view, or did you kind of tinker with the third person style?
I did not. Um, I know a lot of YA books are written in first person,
Mm.
and I know not everyone likes reading in first person, but I like reading in first person because I feel like I'm more immersed. And I found that while I was writing in first person, again, this was my first book, so I didn't really have much to compare it to, but it was so much fun for me writing it in first person because I was also immersed. Like I felt like I was in the story too, which was super
Yeah.
fun to work on, and it was very cathartic because I'm like, wow, this is like so much fun, like going through here, feeling all these emotions and then realizing it's all fake because I just made it up, but it's okay. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I remember having one scene that I wrote in my book, and I actually felt exhilarated. Like it was a scene where kids were just doing like a quick little bike race on some dirt paths, but just writing it, I was like, "Oh, this is exciting."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a sign too that you're doing something right because
Yeah.
if you're that excited, if you're that interested, obviously you're going to be interested in your own creation. Well, you would
Yeah.
think, but sometimes you're not. And that's a clue that you need to flag this section, come back to it because something's wrong if you yourself are feeling disconnected from it. Because
Yeah.
if you're disconnected, definitely the audience is going to be disconnected.
Yeah. You know, I want to come back to how your process has changed and evolved from book to book. Um, but no, let's just go straight there. Let's go straight there. So from book to book, because this is the first one that you wrote, was it shorter than some of the others intentionally, or was it just kind of like, this is my first time writing a book, I'm going to write a shorter one, or was there just a progression of making this one shorter because of, or I'm sorry, the other one's longer because they're not aimed at a younger audience?
Well, I realized when I was writing the first draft, I was maybe between 50 and 75% done with the first draft. And I was looking at everything and I started getting more ideas in my head and it hit me. I was like, this is going to be a series. So,
Hmm.
because I knew there was going to be more that would need to happen because I already had the ending in mind and I'm like, it can't
The
end
big
there because
master
there,
ending, like the series ending.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, that and the story ending. I'm like, I knew how I was going to end the story, but I'm like, but it can't end there because she hasn't been able to learn everything.
Yeah.
So that's why I wasn't too concerned with getting to a certain word count. Like I knew I wanted between like 70 and 90,000 words, which is usually what I aim for anyway.
Mm.
And I forget how much this one measured up to, but I think it is a smidge shorter than the other ones. But that's because I knew I had to end it at a certain place, and I was going to have book two, which the draft for that's already written. I just got to get it moving through the editing process and everything. Yeah.
Nice.
And book three is like, 50% done. But yeah, so never fear. Like people who are listening and are like, oh, I hate reading a series when not everything's done. This is all going to be done. I don't know like what the time frame will be for publishing, but it's all going to be done. So don't worry. I won't let you down. I'm not going to George Martin you.
I'll give you another book sometime in the next now to 12 years.
Right, right.
Okay, so I'm on the process of writing a book after having completed, as much as you ever complete something that's not published yet. That other book, and I feel the second time around a lot less of a feeling of like I don't really know what I'm doing, but I have almost more worry because I was like, I feel like the first one I wrote was pretty good, but what if that was the only good one I have in me and this one just doesn't work out? Did you feel like that at all going into your second book?
For about a split second, like I finished up The Mother We Share, and I think I let it go maybe a week, and then I already had another idea, which ended up being Clementine's Awakening. And once
Mm,
I started that, the writing for that was so much fun. It was even easier, and each book does get easier in some ways, but it gets harder in some ways because the more you learn, certain processes are easier to just spit out. But then you've got new problems because now you know too much, and now
yeah,
you know what readers are expecting. And even though you're supposed to only write for yourself and for the story, you sometimes that stuff sneaks into your head and it nags at you. Or the more you read, you learn more about story structure. And you when you work with a really good editor, like especially on Clementine, I was privileged enough to work with Kenneth Kane, and he's beyond brilliant. He gave me such good advice. And with the story I'm working on right now, it's even seeping into that. Like I'll be writing something and I'll stop and I'll be like, do you really want to do that? No, no, no. Let me back up. Let me change that, twist it around. So it becomes both easier and harder. But
yeah.
Clementine was an absolute joy to write as my second book. And then Demon in Me was the third book I wrote in 2018, which kind of seeped into 2019. But yeah, each of those three books came back to back, one right after the other. And each one I loved even more and even more and even more. And then when I would reread them editing, I was like, oh my God, I love all of them. They're so wonderful. I love them, my little babies.
I'm gonna go back and reread in the order that you actually wrote them. Maybe not cover to cover, but I'm definitely gonna go back through and read those and see if I can't notice like an evolution. Because it's kind of weird reading things in like broken order, like of when they were actually written, isn't it?
Right. Well, if I don't know if like it's noticeable to anyone else, but I know like working on getting these novels edited and released, you have to do so much reading before it's published because there's always typos you're scanning, you're checking for formatting. So you end up rereading each book probably half a dozen times at minimum, like
Oh yeah.
within a couple months before putting it out at last. And I know reading each one, it was so different, especially if you let a good bit of time go between when you first write it. It's almost like, what did I really write this? Did somebody else write this? But that's kind of a good thing because if you can start detaching like that, that's why when they say when you write a first draft, put it away for a couple months and then go back to it. I swear it helps so much because the more detached you are from that work, the
Yeah.
better you will be at editing it,
Yeah, for sure.
and because it's like you're reading someone else's, and we are always better when we're reading and editing someone else's work than our own.
Yeah.
So definitely try to do that for yourselves.
When you write, do you I can't remember if I asked you this, so geez, I'm just gonna stop saying that. Let's pretend we've never spoke before. Um When you write, do you have like a certain amount of pages that you'll put down before you're like, okay, now it's time to go back over those again? Or will you write an entire first draft and then start doing kind of like some revision and editing?
I really try to write just a draft. I try to resist going back. There are times that I will go back occasionally because I do a mix of, pantsing and plotting, but I am mostly a pantser. So there are times where the characters will take me in a different direction than I anticipate. And I know, like I'll write a scene and I'll be like, in that moment, it'll strike me, you need to fix this part in chapter 3 because otherwise you're going to forget to do it. So I will, in those times, I will go back really quickly and not necessarily do it perfectly because I know I'm going to reread it multiple times and fix it. But yeah, that's important because in the moment you don't want to lose your momentum of where you are, what you've been doing, what you're planning. But as far as like just copy editing, like I don't go back looking for typos or grammar or anything like
Yeah,
that. Not until, because you can get so sucked into that and then you'll never really progress because you just keep rereading the same things and you're going to keep
yeah.
finding stuff.
It's just as bad as getting on Twitter or Instagram. It's like you're just going to go in a circle where you just go, eh,
Hmm.
oh, 45 minutes has gone by. I ain't done shit yet.
Well, I know people too that they'll get so stuck on certain sentences, which there is a part of your editing where that's going to be a thing where you're going to want to go through sentence by sentence on the line edit and make sure everything sounds just the way you want.
Hmm.
But you could spend hours, crafting the perfect sentence, and you've got hundreds, thousands of sentences in a book. You can't get that sucked in by the minutia. I mean, it's important, but at the same time, you've got to keep moving forward. And
Yeah,
and remember, you're going to edit multiple times. So you don't have to catch everything in one pass. You have plenty of chances, especially right up towards the end. Like I said, you're going to read the book. That last couple months, you're going to read it like 6 or 7 times. You're going to have tons of chances. So don't get stuck sacrificing story and momentum to fix, what's ultimately going to be silly in the long run. Like I remember when I released Demon in Me, the first time I reread it, I was like, oh my God, why did I put that comma there? Why did I do this? And it's like, for me, that was like I was losing sleep. I had to go fix it. But, you ask other people, like, what did you think about that comma? They're like, what comma? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I was just reading the book.
that come on page 117 that seemed iffy. Yeah,
Right. They don't care. I mean, if the story is good enough, you can get away with a lot more than you realize you can.
yeah,
And I mean, as readers, we all know that too. Every single big five best-selling, you know, written by a legend writer book that I read, there's typos.
yeah.
It's not a ton of typos, but there
And
are
if you
some here and there.
and if you find one that doesn't have a typo, it's probably not the first run of it.
Right, right. So, but if the story is good enough, you'll see them, but you honestly won't care because you keep pushing through. You want to find out what happens.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, oh, yeah, that's right. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with your books. Now that you've got somewhat of a catalog to your name,
Mhm.
um, are they kind of like your kids and you love them all equally but different, or is it kind of like once you've got a new book out, all the other ones are old news?
No, I love them all equally, just like a parent should. I know not all parents do, but just like a parent should. But no, the hard thing is, especially when you're an indie writer and you've got to do a lot of this stuff yourself, it's very hard to like balance, like, how do I market this book or that book? Do I do them all together? Do I do it separately?
Mm.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm probably not, but it's it's very hard to show, like, who gets the love this month or this week to
Mhm.
keep pushing it, and you just got to try to do the best you can. I've been very lucky with Silver Shamrock because they've helped with a lot. They did so much marketing for Clementine's Awakening, which was brilliant. It was so helpful, and I will
I've only
appreciate it
heard good
until the
things
day I
about that
die.
organization. Like
Oh, they're
they've
fantastic.
they've won some awards, right? Some indie publisher awards.
I believe so, yeah. And they're nominated again for a couple of Bram Stokers this year, including one of them for best novel, which I did read Devil's Creek by Todd Kiesling.
Oh, okay,
Amazing.
yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
such a
him
good book.
personally, but I definitely know the name. I think I might follow him too.
Yes, very good book. I definitely recommend. I recommend honestly any of the best novels because I read them all this year just by chance, and they were all nominated for best novel. So I'm like, I don't even know which one should win because they're all fantastic. They're all so good.
Yeah. I don't think any of them should win. I think one of yours should win. So there.
Maybe one day.
There
Maybe
you go.
one day. You never know. Um, but no, I mean, I love all my books. I try to do justice by them. I try to promote them as much as I can without being overly promoting because nobody likes the over promoter. Where
Yeah. Yeah.
that's all they do, that's all they talk about. There's definitely a balance. I'm still trying to find that balance
Yeah.
between
Well,
doing too much and too little.
you have a pretty good balance because you let people know that you've got a book out or if there's a deal, but then you got your throwback pictures of you and your little kid on there. Like it's not 100% business all the time. There's some personality coming in there too.
Yes, I try to do that because it's like, I mean, if I just did sales pitches all the time, people would tune me out very quickly, which I
Yeah.
understand because I do the same thing, and they could be awesome books that these people are promoting. And sometimes they are, but you've got to blend yourself into, you can't just be a salesperson. Nobody wants that, you know,
Yeah.
nobody wants to be pitched to. That's why we don't like telemarketer phone calls all the time
Right.
because we don't care. It's like, I don't know you. Shut up. Leave me alone. I don't care what you're selling. You could be selling some life-saving elixir that's going to save me years of torment. I don't want it because you called
I
me.
don't I don't want to hear about what I'm eating dinner at home.
Right.
I don't want to see your book again. Well, I'm just trying to
Right.
see pictures of funny shit.
Yes.
Um, talking about the books and you love them all. How much has your writing process changed, if at all? Would you say from writing the first novel to the last one? Actually, not in the order that they came out, but yeah, from the first time you
um,
finished a novel to the most recent time you finished a novel, how much does that process look the same, and what are the biggest changes you've made?
I think one of the biggest changes, and I don't even think I made it deliberately. I just noticed that it happened. When I'm on a good flow, I can write several thousand words a day. It doesn't always
Mhm.
happen, but I can. Um, and it was much easier to do that when I first started writing probably because I didn't know a lot about I mean, I knew like the general technical aspects of writing, but I didn't know like in detail what was expected,
Yeah, it was
and
all new
what should
territory.
be done. Right. But now that I do know more of that, it is slower at times to get everything out because I am working through trying to do things. I'm trying to do things right the first time.
Yeah.
So that way there should be less editing, less rewriting, like on a serious scale. So,
So you've got a
but
little
yeah,
bit
I
of your
noticed,
editor brain on.
right. So, and which is great because, if it saves me time in the long run, I feel like with The Mother We Share, Clementine, and Demon in Me, I feel like before I even submitted them, I'm not sure the exact number, but I feel like with each one of those, I probably reread them like half a dozen times and did a couple of serious rewrites in certain sections for each book
Mm.
before I even submitted them. And then, of course, after you submit them, you go through a whole spiel of like different rewrites and edits and whatever. So, um, but yeah, I think the last book series, The Night She Fell, came out much more smoothly just from the get go. Like there was still stuff through my editor that I had to fix here and there, but it wasn't as much, and the problems that had to be fixed were not like as big. Like there wasn't any massive rewrites or massive plot holes that, like, how the hell did I write that? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. How did that slip by? So it's a good thing, but it does make for a slightly slower process because you are being more careful initially. But it saves you time later, so maybe it evens out.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the best process is for me because I try to write everything by hand to start because anytime I've tried writing directly to the computer, it just doesn't seem to have the same flow. So I'll usually write like anywhere from like 5 to 15 pages by hand, and then I'll go back
Hmm.
through and put it on the computer, and then a lot of things will come through. It's like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right, and I'll just fix the little things there. But that's I got to admit, it's a tedious way to do things. Do you go straight to computer?
Yeah. Well, I started when I was 12. My mom got me a typewriter,
Mm,
because she knew I wanted to be a writer. So from, as early as 12, I was typing. And there's something about typing. Obviously, it's much easier with a computer because you don't need whiteout and you don't need to change your ink
yeah.
ribbon and whatever. But there's something about typing, it's almost hypnotic. You got the whole muscle memory thing going on when you've been typing for as long as I have. And it really, for me, it helps make the writing come easier because part of my mind kind of floats away, and
Mm,
the brain that really knows what's going on, the subconscious really gets to, put down on the page the stuff that it's already planned that it hasn't told me yet. So
yeah.
it comes out much easier. Now, if I were to start writing by hand, which I've always had terrible penmanship, I've always been bad at like the act of writing. So I think if I did that, like pen and paper, it would, I probably wouldn't get anything done because it would be so distracting trying to do it right, trying to make my penmanship not look like a complete jumbled mess that I
Where
wouldn't
you can
actually
even
get
read it.
any work
Yeah.
done. Hmm. But everyone, there's people who write entire like 400, 500 page books. Their first draft they do pen to paper. So you've got
Oh
to
yeah.
go with whatever works best for you, you know?
Well, I should do what James Patterson does. He writes everything by hand, and then he has a person transcribe it onto a computer form.
Or he's got like a chip in his head and things just download. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, this is the this is my first notebook on the one I'm doing now, but I wrote the entire thing out on there, man.
Bless you for that. I could not have done it.
It's
But
the
that, I
only
mean,
way
that's
I can.
great. That's great because it obviously worked for you because you got an entire book
Yeah, and I'll
done
tell you,
that
this
way.
well, remember I said that when I wrote my book, I had to go through and scrap about 80 to 90 pages out of the middle of it.
Hmm.
Those were the
Hmm.
pages I wrote directly on the computer.
See, so maybe you weren't as
Yeah,
connected, like holistically, like your
it just doesn't.
subconscious
Yeah,
didn't have its opportunity to
I
work,
can't
you
dial in
know?
through all my fingers. It's just the hand. And even while we're talking right now, I've been doing this the whole time,
See? So
twirling my pen in my hand, and so
you've got a
yeah,
process that works for you,
yeah. I've got
and that's
what do they
great.
call that? What do they call that? Not a restless leg, but I've got like restless hand.
Restless hand. Have to write, have to.
That's right. Uh, well, we've been talking for a little over an hour.
Hmm.
I don't want to take up your whole afternoon, especially since we got started late. But is there anything else that we should talk about? New news with you, stuff about the books. Oh, we're gonna give away some of your books. I already put a little bit of that out
Yes.
on social media. So,
And I did
um,
on Twitter too.
yep. And then I said on the website we'll give it about a week or so. See what rolls in, and then anybody who puts what did I say it was shares the picture of your book promo and then also a picture of the show's logo, then they probably going to end up with at least one free book. So
Yeah. Or a whole set. I mean, I probably won't give away much more than a whole set because I mean, I just don't have that many hard copies on me. And I finally got my Clementine copies. Amazon kind of held them up a little bit because when they work, and when they don't, it's terrible. So, But yeah, I finally got them and they're so pretty. So I'm definitely eager to share a couple of those. Um, but yeah, I had
Well,
Clementine was my
I'm gonna buy a couple of copies too to give out as gifts.
yay. You should have. I didn't. Did you see that there was a sale in March, I believe, where most of Silver Shamrock's ebooks were 99 cents.
Oh, you know what? I think I did
Yeah.
see you posted that on your page, didn't you?
Yeah, because I
Um,
bought like 10 of them. Because
I
there's
should
been a
get
lot
more
I wanted to
ebooks.
read.
I should get more ebooks, but I love having a book in my hand.
Yeah, I love it too, but my boyfriend doesn't love me cluttering the apartment with books, which fair enough. 'Cause at one time I had probably like 500 books, so I get it. It's fair. But
Well,
honestly, I like my little Kindle too because I can buy more because they're
yeah,
usually cheaper, you know,
yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
I can
Yeah,
read at
people are
night
always
in
having
bed.
99-cent Kindle books, and
Hmm. And I like indie stuff now. I mean, I didn't really realize how extensive the indie scene was. Like,
yeah,
like most people, I knew that you could self-publish, years ago, but I kind of imagined, oh, it's probably all crap, whatever, blah, blah. But once I got my own Kindle and started reading a lot of those, I'm like, okay, these are not all crap. Some of these are some of the best books I've ever read in my whole life. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, with anything, there's crappy, like big five books that are published, that
Oh,
you spend
I've
20.
I love putting down a book that I don't think is good and not reading it all. I've got friends that are like, "How can you just not read a book?" I'm like, "Screw it, man. If I get more than halfway through and I'm just like,
Mhm.
when? When's it gonna get good?" I just put it down.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I never used to be that person, but I've been reading so much the past few years, and
Yeah.
my TBR just keeps growing and growing.
Oh
I've
god,
got
tell
to
me.
be that person now. I've
Yeah.
got to make a limit. Like you, I have like probably about a third of the way through. If nothing is going on that's interesting me at all, I've got to move on.
Yeah.
And maybe it's good enough. Maybe it's just not for me, or it's not for me in that moment, and I will come back to it. But usually, no. But it doesn't happen very often. But when it does, I mean, I'm sorry. I've got other books to read and books that are probably going to be more my
Hmm.
taste.
Are there any books that you liked but you couldn't finish because you were just like, "Shit's too intense." I couldn't finish, Misery.
Really? Oh God, well, I read that so young, but I think I read it after the movie came out. I feel like I saw the movie. No, no, it's not true. I read the book first because in the movie, I was like, I forget how young I was as a teenager. I was very mad when Annie's got Paul tied to the bed and I'm waiting for the hobbling scene. And then she takes the sledgehammer and Psh. I'm like, really? She's not even going to cut his foot off? And my mom's like, what is wrong with you? Like, what happened in the book? I want what happened in the book to happen in the movie. And
Everyone in the theater is like,
there
"Oh!" and you just yawn.
was, yeah, I'm like, boring. And then there was no dead thumb in the birthday cake. I'm like, what the hell is this? I was not at all happy with the Misery adaptation, apart from obviously Kathy Bates made a phenomenal Annie Wilkes.
Yeah.
That's worth watching it. But no, the book is way better. I'm sorry.
That book was just
But
so intense, man, like, and it might even be too because I read, an interview where Stephen King said that he wrote that book and Annie Wilkes was like the personification of cocaine and what cocaine was doing to him in his career.
yes, I think I read that same interview. Which again,
It
as a
just
kid,
made it
I
seem
didn't
like much more
understand.
personal than just like, oh, some crazy
Yeah.
person, you know?
But yeah, it's one of the best. Like there's so many books about stalkers and obsessed people and whatever. That's definitely one of the best portrayals, book and movie wise, of how dangerous that type of person can be. Because I don't think unless it's happened to someone, I think they think that it's dramatized in the movies and books. Like these people aren't really that dangerous. Yes, they are really dangerous. If someone is obsessed, it is a real thing. People die every year from it. And
Yeah, John
don't take
Lennon.
it lightly. Right. I mean, we've had stuff where, in my family, I hate to say that there's been some pretty bad, domestic violence situations and stuff where
Mm,
one member is obsessed, one spouse is obsessed with another, and there's been some close calls. I mean, thankfully, no one's been killed over it, but
yeah,
it's not something to take lightly, that type of behavior.
yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, which also has now given me flashbacks to uh, Demon and Me.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, I was thinking about this the other day because, like I said, March has been like a really hard month. There's been a lot of bad things. Unfortunately, nothing that happened to me personally, so that's good.
Yeah,
But when it's to the people that you love, it can be just as stressful and painful because you love them. You want to protect the people you care about from harm.
yeah,
And I don't know. It was so crazy. Like that book was so much on my mind this month because I was like, sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. Like I thought when
mm,
I was writing Demon in Me, I mean, yeah, there were some callbacks, not to anyone personally, but certain themes and stuff that yes, I did experience as a kid in a completely different setting with different people. But it was fiction, it was fiction. But when you actually start seeing stuff suddenly happening in real life like that, it's very disturbing to say the
yeah.
least. And, I've got another story on submission, which I can't give too much info because I don't know what's going to happen with it. But, again, it was like a stalker type thing. And then someone that's very close to me is currently being stalked, and it's a very scary situation. And I was like, damn, I wrote that book like a year ago, and it's like it was like a prophecy or something. Like, what the hell is going on?
I know you're going
It's
to be like the new
2021.
Stephen King, where everyone's like, "She wrote about it, and now it's happening."
Now it's happening. But I'm like, it's 2021. I thought it was supposed to be better this year. It is just as crazy so far. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's crazy. I can only hope it's going to get better and that everything will work itself out. Because
yeah,
nobody needs this kind of stuff in their life. It's not healthy. But read books and write books. I mean, the thing that saved me through this month is the new book I'm writing on. It's really been helpful, even though it's not really related to what's going on. Just writing about it, it's releasing like little steam vents of stress, and it helps a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. It really does too, because well, I don't know how long you'll go without writing, um, but I'll go sometimes a couple days, at most maybe a week, where I don't write. Yeah, a couple days where I don't write anything at all. But then the whole time, um, I'll just like when I'm hanging out with my wife or my kids, they'll be talking to me, and I'll just be kind of like looking somewhere, kind of. Most like, what are you thinking about right now? I'm like, huh? Oh, just all the stuff that I'm gonna write next time I sit down. And she's like,
It
okay,
happens.
okay, as long as you're not like contemplating divorce, then we're good.
No, it happens all the time too. Like I used to, like the typical husband wife thing. It's a standard joke, like between me and my boyfriend. I'm like, you don't listen to me ever, 20 years. And I'll tell him stuff and he's just like, huh, what? And then, a week later, why did you tell me this was going to happen? I'm like, cause I did tell you. But now it's like getting to be the other way around. We'll be just sitting there and he'll be talking about something and I'm just kind of staring off into space and I'm thinking about, okay, so my character's coming up to this point, maybe she should go this way, maybe she should go that way, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, Jen, are you even listening to me? And I'm like, sorry, I was writing. So
Yeah,
can you repeat all of that? Cause I don't know.
yeah. My wife was telling me about the next weekend that we're doing something with some of our friends, and then she finished with, "Does that sound okay?" And I went, "Huh?" And in my head, I had been thinking, you know what? We haven't heard from that police officer in 2 chapters. I gotta bring him back in the next chapter.
And what's his name going to be? Hmm.
Oh, he's already got a nickname that he hates, and there's another guy at the station that him and they get in an argument about it, and it's a whole thing.
But yeah, we definitely as writers, we can be very distracted. People not intentionally. I mean, we're not ignoring people, I think,
No,
most of
no,
us,
we're
but
hyper
we're
focusing. We just
living
not on the right thing.
right. We're living in a whole other world you're not seeing. So,
Uh-huh.
but you
Yeah.
will see one day if we're lucky and get it out there to you.
So, do you have any other release dates in the future that you already know about, or is everything else kind of still up in the air, uh, dates wise?
Um, the only other book that I'm planning on releasing this year so far, I don't know if anything else is going to happen, but the sequel to The Night She Fell, we're in the editing process and it should be released the same time it was last year. So the autumn equinox, which is like September 21st-ish.
Okay.
It'll be released. And there may be other things like there's a short story that might be coming out and I don't know what else, so I can't really commit to anything, but definitely The Night She Fell's sequel, She Who Destroys, will be out in September.
She Who
And as far
Destroys.
as
That sounds badass.
it's a crazy book and it was super fun to write, so hopefully everyone will like it as much as I like it, but obviously I'm biased, so but
Yeah, just a little bit.
but yeah, I mean, Clementine's been doing really well. I'm so proud of her, and I hope that people like respond as well to The Mother We Share. They're two completely different types of stories. Like this one is definitely got a lot of dark fantasy, like fantasy aspects to it, which usually blends well with horror because there's definitely some scenes in there that scared me anyway when I was writing them. I don't know if I'm just, a wimp sometimes
Well,
or whatever.
I think fantasy, all fantasy is horror. It's just some of it is like upbeat. Like, but anytime
Right.
you're dealing in worlds that are completely different from your own, that by itself is fucking terrifying.
Right. Especially if you stumble upon something from
Yeah.
said other world and you're like, what? Is this for real? Am I insane? No, you're in a novel.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely a splash of that to what we might call your style is you have a way of making the reader question whether or not their main characters are crazy or not, or actually have something going on, um, in a way that's really fun for the reader because they don't know, like, okay, what's actually going on right now.
Well, isn't that so much fun though, having your narrator be slightly unreliable?
Yeah.
I mean, not to an extreme point, because I've read some unreliable narrator stories where you're like, okay, this is so frustrating and it's going in so many directions. I don't even care anymore what's going on now because you've lost me, you know? But just a little bit, and again, it really, I think point of view makes a big difference in that. Because if it's from first person, like these three stories were, if it's from first person, you only know what the character knows. So there's a whole world. There's other people's thoughts and motivations and various dynamics that they're not privy to. So it
Hmm.
can make for, in my opinion, a more exciting read, a more exciting writing experience. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people are really, I think they said Third Limited is by far the most popular to write and read in. And I've been experimenting with that too. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just what I like. So I plan on doing more like that in the future, even though the books I'm working on now are not in that point of view. But you've got to experiment to grow and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one of these days I'll write a second person POV. I'm reading a book right now called If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italo Calvino. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I don't think I have.
it's written all in the second POV, and it's you go to the library and you see this book and you feel compelled. You're not sure why. So you get the book and you take it to the register and the whole thing just goes on, like, and you read this book and the more you read it, you find, and I've never read anything that's actually, a novel anyway, that's written in that way. And it's bizarre. It's a little off-putting, but it kind of in a good way too, just because it feels like, it feels like getting on a treadmill and going backwards or something. You know what I mean? Like this part of this
Yeah.
feels right, but
Well, I think it's not done often because it's super hard to do it in the right way. You
yeah.
know, it's a difficult POV to write from, but one that is very popular and deservedly so is the book You by Caroline Kepnes.
Oh, I've heard of
If
it. Yeah.
you've read that, yes. And the Netflix show is really good too. I don't know how well it measures up to the book because I haven't finished the first book because I started reading it and then I started watching the show and I got myself all screwed up. So,
Yeah, I'm
but
doing the same thing with
it's
Wanda
really
right
good.
now.
Oh, a lot of people like that show. I'm not a huge comic book person fan though, so the only Avenger I really like is Thor. So, but my nieces and nephews love all that. They love WandaVision. They're like, you have to watch it. So
Well,
I'm sure I
I
will
wouldn't
one
even
day.
say you have to watch the show. The show seems cool. I've only watched like the first episode and a half. But I've got the complete series comic book of Vision,
Hmm.
and it's amazing to me. Like a lot of times you'll read a comic book and you'll be like, okay, the writing is kind of cheesy, but it's a comic book. The writing in this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Like it could be novelized.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've got a bit of a sour taste in my mouth right now for Disney because I finally just watched Rise of Skywalker.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I put it off for a year because I was not happy with The Last Jedi.
For people who can't
And
see her face right now,
oh,
she's got this look on her face like somebody just farted and she's mad.
it was beyond horrible. It was like every childhood dream I ever had as a Star Wars fan got kicked right in the balls.
Yeah.
So multiple times it was bad.
Multiple times. It's already on the ground. Come on.
So Disney and I are going to have a little break. We're going to have go our separate ways for a bit so I can clear my head.
That's a generational thing too, because my oldest daughter, the one who just moved out, she's a freshman in college. She'll sit there and defend those movies all day long. But, that's her generation,
Right,
those
right.
those movies were getting made when she was finding out all the cool things that are out there in the world. So
Hmm. Right, and that's fair, and everyone likes their own things, and I would never be that person who's like, you can't like it because I don't like it. you know,
yeah. But you can still
Everyone's
say
entitled.
fuck that.
Right, right. I'm not happy with it, but if anyone out there listening is, I completely respect your right to like those movies, and good for
Yeah.
you. I'm glad you found joy in them.
I think there's a few people out there that still like them. Yeah.
I think so. There's a few.
Yeah.
There's a couple. They might work at Disney, but I don't know.
I'm an original trilogy guy myself.
Yes, and by original, I mean the original. Which can we buy those again? Because I am not a fan of the updated
I know.
version.
I know. They changed it so that in the newest version, Greedo shoots at Han first, but originally Han
I
shoots
know.
first. And
Yeah.
that's a big distinction to make. Somebody just shoots somebody because they don't like them or out of self-defense.
Right. And the whole scene with like the skinny Jabba and he like all woo when someone steps on his tail, it's like, are we watching a comedy? What is this, the Three Stooges? What's going on? This is Star Wars. I don't want to watch his eyes roll all over in his head as his CGI body flops around. I want to watch like a serious movie where the fate of the Empire rests in
Yeah.
these possibly incapable young people's hands.
Well, and that was part of the appeal to me of the original trilogy. And I say the same thing now about Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal, right? Uh
Yes, I love that
is
movie.
the original ones like it was all like people making things out of plastic and rubber and
Hmm.
paint, and CGI is cool. And I I interviewed somebody who does CGI work, type that kind of thing, and it's beautiful, but I feel like especially with the Dark Crystal, I just want to
Hmm.
see really cool puppeteering. I don't want to see CGI at
Yep.
all.
And it's just as fake. Like you see that it's puppets, and they're not real,
Yeah,
but it looks so much better. Like I didn't end up being a huge fan of the sequel to the Dark Crystal that just came out on Netflix like last year.
me
It
neither, but
was
my
all
kids
right.
loved it. My kids are like,
Right.
"This is great." I'm like, "It's not as good as the original." You
Yeah.
mean that
I mean,
old
it
thing?
was right. It wasn't terrible, you
Yeah,
know, but it was not, like you said, there was something so magical about that movie, and the atmosphere it felt like you were actually in like this weird, jungly, horrible type world, and with all
yeah,
these crazy creatures. And then it seems so clean cut in the updated version. But, and there's a lot of that in horror movies as well, a lot of that debate. Like, I grew up on horror movies from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, because I liked old movies even as a kid. And the practical special effects, like, I think probably the best example is The Thing, the original The Thing by John Carpenter. That movie is brilliant. Like, the monsters are so terrifying because they're so bizarre. And yes, you can see that they are fake. Someone made them, and they've got like KY jelly or something on them as goo, and that's not real, but it's still so cool. But
yeah,
you watch like the computerized version of like similar type of movies, not at all, like, there's no part of you that's jumping or cringing back because it seems too clean, I guess is the best way to describe it. You lose a lot, I think. I think the
yeah,
practical effects should be make a comeback, I hope.
yeah. Unless you're gonna just completely blur reality and do something like they did in, Sin City or, 300,
Yeah.
where, like, the
Yeah.
whole world is CGI with just trace elements of reality in it.
Yeah. Which that wasn't bad either. But they were
Yeah,
actiony movies. I think they're held to a different standard as far as that goes. But when
yeah,
it's something that's super supposed to be super moving or emotional or terrifying, I don't know. I think the practical works better. Or a blend of it somehow, something. It's got to be something
yeah,
better than all computer.
yeah. I mean, that's why what has it been? Man, it must be at least 40 years since Thriller came out, and you can still watch the Thriller music video, regardless what you think about Michael Jackson, and that video is still
Great.
amazing.
It's still great. And
Or
the
American
the
Werewolf in
zombies.
Paris, or no, American Werewolf
Yeah.
in London, that was the first one. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's an amazing transformation. It's awesome to watch. And again, it's it's fake, but it looks real enough that you are cringing when he's going through it,
yeah.
which means that if you cringe, there's something in your brain that is getting enjoyment out of this because it thinks it's real enough to make you react that way.
Well, and with those parameters that they've got, knowing like, okay, well, we can't make an actual monster the size of a skyscraper. So what we can do is just focus in on its face, and then they have to go to like a more of a gothic style strategy of like, we're not just going to show the thing, but we're going to build the thing up until like you almost have a heart attack just thinking about it. Then we'll show it to you for a second.
Yeah. Oh, movies.
Mm. Well, books and movies and all kinds of fun stuff. Um, we've got an hour and a half here on record, so let's call it a day. Is there anything you want to say, personally, professionally, otherwise, before we let you go?
Just follow my Twitter, Instagram, whatever else for updates because I'm sure there's going to be more updates coming out soon. If the podcast gets up before the end of today, the ebook is 99 cents right now for pre-order for The Mother We Share. It will
Okay,
not be 99 cents once it's released. So definitely pre-order it for that good price. And the paperback will be coming within like a day or two. Sometimes there's a bit of a lag, between all that. But yeah, definitely please order The Mother We Share. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about Clementine's Awakening, which only came out in January and is still doing well. And I'll have updates about my next projects at jenniferlsoucy.com on my website. So, but yeah, it was always, as always, it's great to talk with you, Chris, and to go over all of our favorite stories and writing stuff and everything. It's a great time as always.
Yeah, likewise. One of these days when things aren't so pandemic-y, then I'm going to make another trip down to Savannah. So,
Yes, we'll go on
and I
a
don't
ghost
know.
tour.
Yeah, dude. Oh, I would love to. I went on one ghost tour the last time I was in Savannah, and I still think about it sometimes and get goosebumps. Yeah, it was great. It was the walking tour that we did, but they had a couple of them,
Hmm.
like an open top hearse. I saw that looked kind of cool.
Nice, nice.
But
I
yeah,
want to be on the open top purse.
yeah, right. Just for that experience alone,
Yes.
drive around Savannah in a hearse. Well, cool, man. We'll do that sometime. Tell your boyfriend we said hi. All the best of luck to you with the
Hi.
books and the
You
writing and
too.
everything else.
You too, and I hope the kids are okay downstairs. We haven't
I
heard
haven't heard
anything,
him
so
scream in a while, so maybe
it
one
means
of
they're
them's
either
unconscious.
plotting, yeah, they're either plotting or they're perfectly okay.
The oldest is unconscious, and the other two are doing dances around her limp body.
Damn kids.
All right. Well, Jen, good talking to you. I'll let you get back to your regular life now. Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to talking to you again.
Go to www.jenniferlsoucy.com to find out more. Go hit her up on all of her social media. Check me out at www.christophertallon. Hit up my social media. Look up that book giveaway and get in on that. And then go to buymeacoffee.com/creativeops and buy me a coffee. All right, everybody. Love you.